then you're just, and we're live, and we're just like, oh, hey everybody.
Hello. We weren't arguing at all. What do you mean?
And we're live.
Hey everybody! Oh, hey, wait, did you actually go live?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you did.
I don't have a live link, my dude.
Here, it's the same live link every week,
I
Brian.
have to still grab it.
There, I sent it to you.
All right, I'm gonna at everyone and make everyone mad.
Oh my
Don't
God.
put drugged on my thing. I literally took 2 ibuprofen.
And you know,
Is that really?
Oh my god.
you do know that in post in the VOD, people are gonna be like, they're not gonna be able to help themselves.
Okay, now I have to go to the fucking thing and actually monitor chat because somebody just dumped going live on us.
Yes, I did. You know, you gave me a great idea with letting me know just to hit the live button and not really wait for you guys. That was a sweet idea. I wonder why I
we
didn't think
did
of that
suggest
myself.
that.
Yeah, we did suggest it, so.
That was the thing.
To be
So,
fair.
brought it up
yeah, we're.
yourselves.
I guess we'll wait for some people to file in here. This episode was a thing, and we're gonna talk about it.
A thing.
What episode was that, Brian?
That was listen. We're waiting for people to file in.
We're giving them the
Okay.
benefit of the doubt, considering, you know, I just pressed the button and didn't really wait for anybody.
Yeah, see, bitch.
Hey, you want to say that again?
Yeah,
Why don't
bitch.
Why don't we do, like, our intros? And,
All right, there's enough people in here that I think we can do that
Yeah,
now.
we got
Hey, what
25
is
people
up,
watching now.
guys? My name is Brian. I am the head of the audio department here at KRWBY Productions. I also play Neptune in Ruby Burged. And with me today, I have...
My name is Ian. I handle the technical side of this podcast, and I'm also responsible for putting my foot up as the following was not rated PG-13. Moving on.
This podcast is not rated PG-13.
Spoilers.
No, my job is to put my foot up Brian's ass.
You're also on the admin team, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So my job is to put my foot up everybody's ass.
Yep.
Who else we got?
We got...
I am also here. I am a person on this podcast. Hello.
His name is Forrest.
That is also true.
Who else we got?
I'm Beau. I voice people of questionable character. Can't believe I'm 2 antagonists now. No, I voice Winter and Ilya for KRWBY Productions. I am also the lead director of the VR shorts, one of the writers for the VR shorts, a co-host of this podcast, as well as our other podcast, Perpetually Ajar, with my co-host Katie Connie Day Johnson. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And we got a special guest here with us. Special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sunny. I am KRWBY's newest 2D artist. I was dragged to their hotel room and they brainwashed me into joining them.
I'm
that
sorry.
took 2 days.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. We don't use the word brainwash. That's the old world term. We use the word indoctrinated.
Oh.
I want to confirm that Tina literally sat down, rubbed her hands together, and went, "Have you heard about the KRWBY initiative?"
She did that, and I was like, "What is that?" And then she told me, "Well, the KRWBY initiative is." Someone tapped her on the shoulder to say goodbye, and I was like, "Don't know what that is still."
it was great too because like I specifically remember that where we were all hanging. It was after the RWBY trivia panel, and we were all just chilling outside. And Beau, I think you and Sunny had been talking for a little bit, and Tina just walked by and was like, "What are we talking about?" And you were and Beau, you were just like, "Oh, this is Sunny. She's a 2D artist." And without hesitation, Tina was like, "Oh, have you heard of the KRWBY initiative?"
We always love 2D
What are we, a
artists.
government-funded secret organization?
In this house, we stand 2D artists.
Oh my god. But yeah, so today we are talking about RWBY Volume 7, Chapter 13, The Enemy of Trust. Now, for those who are new to the podcast, standard operating procedure, spoiler warning, this episode is only out for first members, so if you care about spoilers, you are not a first member and have not seen the episode yet, see ya.
Come back in a week.
Come back in a week after it's gone public for everyone. So, without further ado, I think there's a lot to talk about in this episode. I think we're probably going to talk about just this episode as a whole, and then we're going to talk about the season as a whole and kind of our thoughts on it. Because we finally come to the end here. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the very, very beginning of the episode starts with Neo versus Juniper, which I misspelled Njper.
How dare you?
So it's really cool getting to see more Neo fighting. I've always loved Neo's fight style.
I love that she's just so obviously toying with them.
Yeah.
Like, it's just she's so entertaining to watch because she looks like she's dancing. She looks like she's having fun, you know.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and there's she's just kind of toying with them, doing all of her fun Neo things. Also there was apparently one of the upgrades to Jean's shield is he gets like hard light stuff out of his shield, which is pretty cool.
Gets a little AoE or something. It's
that was actually established when they did their landing strategy.
Oh, you're right. I forgot
was
about
it?
that.
Yeah, he used it to like hid behind his shield and slammed the shield to the ground and used that like force push to like prevent him from like hitting.
I completely forgot about that. I mean, the guy needed a landing strategy. So.
I was gonna say, considering his landing strategy in like the first season, yeah.
Can't rely on Pyrrha anymore.
Yeah.
Made myself sad.
You did that to yourself.
Oh. Still not a gun though.
Then we have so after that little bit into what is probably one of the coolest fights of the season, Cinder versus Winter and Penny.
Yeah. I think this was definitely one of my favorite fights.
Yeah. This one was really cool. Not only because there were so many different layers to this fight. They had the fight in the hallway, they had the fight in the room, they had the fight out in fucking Star Wars like space.
With like Winter's flying manticore.
Yeah.
It made me realize that like that whole like underground laboratory wasn't technically underground, that Atlas is actually hollow. It's like a shell, and there's like a bunch of things inside of the rock floating on Atlas.
I would have thought that would have been thought that would have been like kind of obvious given its architecture. Like you could see like small things I think poking out underneath that are just tech.
Yeah. There's actually a thing on the bottom of it that looks very similarly to because the elevator going into the relic chamber is at an angle, and there's like this whole like thing on the outside of the bottom of Atlas that looks like the elevator, and I'm just kind of like, yo, is the relic chamber's ass hanging out of the bottom of Atlas?
Wow.
Because that doesn't seem secure.
I would hope not. But
I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting.
Well, actually, considering where Oscar fell through, I'd actually say that's probably fairly true.
It seems he did fall a long way though.
That's fair.
I want to talk about that in a minute. I want to talk
to put a giant pit there,
So I want to talk about. I definitely want to talk about that in a minute. But right now, I really want to talk about this air battle that happens between Cinder and Penny and Winter.
Yeah,
because there is some. I mean, in the watch party last night, we heard them flying around being referred to as Astro Boying, and
Iron Man.
Iron Manning, and saw another anime trope in that fight that I absolutely love. It's a really badass trope that it never ceases to be awesome, which is the kick the sword at the person.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one expects the sword kick.
Yeah. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
I knew someone was going to make that joke, whether Cole was here or not.
But yeah, so that was really cool. Winter kind of gets her ass handed to her and she starts falling to her death.
Can we talk about the fact that she still really held her own despite the fact that she's not a maiden? Like, I feel like she did pretty damn good considering she didn't have super robot powers or maiden powers.
She did really well, considering the fact after a little bit she didn't have any aura left.
Yeah.
This is true. Although Penny decides that she gonna save Winter rather than go help the Winter Maiden. Turns out the Winter Maiden didn't actually really need that much help, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Penny saves Winter, and Winter's like, "What are you doing? My life doesn't matter." And Penny's like, "Nah, fam, it matters." So, once again, kind of establishing this difference in philosophy between Winter and Penny, which I really, really like. I've said it multiple times on the podcast already. I'm absolutely loving this dynamic between Penny and Winter, and how they're kind of shaping Penny up to be more human than Winter.
Yeah, the human who's robotic and the robot who's human, right?
Yeah.
A nice dichotomy.
Yeah, I really like that because the whole trope of like the robot who wants to know what it means to be human is so common and it's so overdone, and I really like this spin that they're putting on it.
Yeah. I really like it. I had said it, back in what was it? I can't remember the name of the number. I think it was like 8 or something. Cordially Invited.
Mhm.
That after Winter had her blow up at the dinner, and then Penny went and talked to her afterwards that they were foils for each other, and I love that they actually did continue that. Y'all got awkwardly quiet.
I may or may not have gotten
I
like
just
a work
have
text
feelings.
right at that moment.
Yeah, no, I was my internet was
What?
doing a thing, but
What are your feelings, Sunny?
I'm just, I don't know. It's just, words.
Such a mood.
Words?
That's just my entire state of being since yesterday. Just screeching internally and externally.
I have my reaction to prove that.
I absolutely love your reaction as like as various things are happening, and you're just like quickly like marking down your bingo card.
Yeah. Did you actually?
Like, nope.
So here's a good question, Beau. Did you actually manage to fill out that card? Like, did you get bingo? Please.
No,
the rest of the show doesn't matter. What matters is did you get bingo?
I literally said, Ian, let me talk. I literally said my goal wasn't to get bingo. It was to see how many I could fill.
Yeah.
So what was the number?
Did you get bingo?
I didn't get bingo, no.
Okay.
I don't
Then
know where
the world
item
is flawed and should be corrected.
Yeah. This is the bad place.
This is
So-
the alternate timeline.
So can we talk? So now we return back to Juniper versus Neo.
Mhm.
Now-
boy.
Can we talk for a moment about the fact that they're going full on fighting Neo, who is one of the most dangerous characters we've ever met?
Mhm.
They're like holding their own against Neo. Like she is still kind of mopping the floor with them, but like they're fighting. They're not like getting their ass super handed to them, right?
They're
Can
at least
somebody
in their win
explain
condition
to
of
me?
holding her off.
Can somebody explain to me why they're perfectly willing to go up against Neo and be like, let's fuck her up? And then, but when they see 3 guards, they're like, shit, we can't do that.
Because the guards can very easily be like, we need reinforcements at quarter ABXYZ, whereas Neo can't do that.
Neo,
Yeah,
or
it's
not
just
Neo,
Neo.
Nora knocked out. Nora knocked out 3 fucking huntsmen in training at the Vital Festival in one blow. I think they can handle 3 guards in probably 2 seconds.
They can handle a couple of guards, but at some point, you would start to notice that people in this direction are no longer responding.
I think it may also be one of those cases of it's not as personal as, you know, Winter coming after them or as the Aesops coming after them. These are guards just doing their job, that they're not like emotionally invested in it, and maybe they don't want to hurt them because it's not necessarily their fault.
Hey, they're the ones pointing the guns at them, like.
Yeah, but to be fair, they're also running through the school with their weapons out. So like,
well,
I mean,
and all the guards know.
Yeah, there's also an arrest order out. So
I feel like they can incapacitate the guards without hurting them.
So
they could,
can we
but
talk?
Also, one final point. If they continue to go through the guards, how much effort are they going to spend trying to avoid them versus what they will lose?
Well, clearly they already they wound up having to do it anyways because they hold themselves up in the frickin' training room, just waiting for the guards to come.
Eventually, but
So,
like at first it seemed like they could get away, or at least it seemed like their plan was to not engage.
I'm calling. Look, if you go down one hallway and there's one set of guards, then you run the other way and there's another set of guards. Either way, you gotta go through some fucking guards. Like.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's.
Can we talk about how? And I want to say it was 2 or 3 episodes. Well, when they revealed that it was going to be Neo versus Juniper, so 2 episodes ago. That I called the whole. I think that they're gonna do that trope where she switches to Nora and either Ren or Jean are gonna hesitate because they see Nora.
I think you told that to me.
No, I said it on the podcast. I know I said it on the
You've
podcast.
also said it to me.
I know I said it to you. I talked to you like round the clock.
I thought you had said that it was going to be Pyrrha.
No, I wasn't the one that said Pyrrha because it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense for it to have been Pyrrha because it like honestly it'd be one of those like I think they did that in Buffy where there was a shapeshifter and they shapeshifted to a dead character and that just made Buffy really fucking mad and go even harder to kill them because it was like fuck you, don't use my dead friend's face. So it was like that would have been a mistake, I feel like.
Well, and the point of that wasn't to upset the other person or to throw them off emotionally. It was to distract them. And I mean, it ended up, you know, upsetting emotionally as well. But the point was somebody who was already there in that group running away that you would expect to be there, right?
Yeah, but no, that I think that sounds like something Cole would have said, either Cole or Star maybe. Because keep in mind we had both of them on last.
Oh yeah, that's true. Boy, that was a podcast.
Yeah.
How much chaos ensued without me even being there last week?
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
I'll find out after this episode when I go back and watch that VOD.
Go for it.
So, in any case, Neo manages to get away with the relic.
Bitch.
And yeah, they done fucked up.
Neo's
See, this is why you got to go through some guards.
Neo's the only one.
They had one job.
Neo's just like, okay, guys, I'm here. Why are you beat up and you're in jail and what the fuck? It's not that hard, guys. It was just kids.
You just throw your umbrella at them for a while and then
yeah,
and then you win.
So moving back to so moving back to Cinder v Penny and Winter. Cinder tries to kill the Winter Maiden. That doesn't go super great.
Nice
Nope.
grandma has left the game. Mean grandma has joined the game.
Not even mean grandma. She's just like forgetful grandma who is just, what am I doing here? Oh, right, superpowers. I have those.
Some shit up.
Kick your ass.
Man, talk about the most dangerous grandma ever. Like you could imagine if Winter just walked into the chamber one day and Freya's just like, "What? Who are you? Guards!" And then just fucking like her maiden
Blasts.
powers
Blows the building up.
blows the building up. Oh my god.
This woman is a walking catastrophe waiting to happen, and it's beautiful.
Can we talk about, I mean, anyone who knows this name in voice acting is probably not surprised, but Lucy Christian as the Winter Maiden, as Freya, was so good. She was Miss Malachite last volume.
Oh shit.
She was amazing.
Yeah, she's a really prominent Funimation voice actor.
So talented.
She's been in the voice acting industry for at least as prominent roles for at least as long as I've been watching anime, which is going on like 12 years now. So it's like she's been around for a hot minute, and it's super I remember being really surprised when I looked at the credits for the first time we heard Freya talking back in episode 5, and I was like, "Huh, that was Lucy." Well, that's cool. They don't normally have the same voice actor back for multiple characters. So that's kind of cool that they brought her back for that. But then when she was in this episode, we actually got to hear her talking. I was like, holy shit, this voice is so good.
Yeah. No, speaking of voice acting in this episode, we heard some really good stuff from some of our less experienced actors this time around. There was some really great stuff from Neith. There was some really great stuff from Jessica Negri.
Sam Ireland did some really good stuff in the hallway as Nora too.
That's true. Although I don't consider Sam Ireland an inexperienced actor.
Well, no, I'm just I wanted to
yeah.
I thought Kara was great.
I thought Kara was great.
Yeah,
too.
Kara. The
She
line
proven.
that really got me for Kara was her "We can't do that" she delivers to Winter later on in the episode.
That one just felt so raw and painful,
Yeah.
and it hurt me.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people thought that it kind of that line sounded off to them, but I think
I feel the opposite.
yeah, that the
Yeah.
line, the delivery of that line, yeah.
For me, the "We can't do that" was really, really strong. It was actually the line after that, which is the "No, you're hurt," that I personally was a little iffy on. But it's been really amazing watching our voice actors for the main cast kind of grow over the course of this show and really kind of come into their own. Talking about Kara's really delivering on some really serious stuff now.
Yeah, and talking about voice acting, one of my favorite, actually, just in general for this season, one of my favorite moments with the main 4 girls was Yang last episode, or 2 episodes ago, when she's like "But you're huntsman, you can't just back down from a fight," like that.
Ooh, that was so good too.
Crap. But yes, this episode, Jessica Negri, my dude, and then obviously shout out to Elizabeth, who is amazing as Winter as always.
Yup.
But yeah, I was so the amount of desperation in Cinder's voice and in her screams was just really, really almost to a degree heart-wrenching. It kind of I really, this was the first time that I really felt like Cinder struck me as a character of so there is more to her than just this greed. It's not a greed born out of nothing. I really got the vibe from her of I really want to know more about her, because this whole, we've been saying, oh, what if Nora's from Atlas? What if Nora's from Atlas? That's why this whole situation is so personal to her. But then Cinder's lines to Winter at the beginning of this fight was something along the lines of like, you Atlas specialists, you hoard power because you think that it'll mean that you never go hungry, but I refuse to starve is what she says. And like, then you reference the companion guide where it literally says, Cinder's based off of Cinderella. So if you go and you look at the story of Cinderella, then it'll give you a really good understanding of what kind of backstory Cinder came from before we met her. So
Yeah.
they're apparently sticking to a somewhat similar backstory for Cinder as far as Cinderella goes. So that's sad. Cinderella has a sad upbringing. So
Yup.
She's Cinderella without that happy ending.
yeah, she's like, well, isn't that what they said about the villains? Is all the villains are kind of like what would happen if their fairy tale counterparts hadn't gotten the happy ending that they were
Right,
looking
yes,
for.
that's right.
Then who
So,
was Watts
that's-
based off of?
I think it
can't
was
remember.
Watson from Sherlock
Watson
Holmes
and fucking
Moriarty. I don't
he's
know.
based off of like 3 people.
Yeah.
Really?
Wasn't it also Frankenstein's doctor? I don't know.
No, it wasn't Dr. Frankenstein. It was someone else. I'll pull it up. But but yeah, the voice acting was just it blew me away. Like, and then Penny too. Penny's voice actress was
Her
insanely good.
efforts were great.
Yeah,
So
I really liked her efforts.
So the thing about Jessica Negri, right, is this is really the first time that I think we've really heard her do this kind of stuff with Cinder. Most of what we've heard her do with Cinder has been kind of that really kind of brooding, sexy type of villain. And this was the first time that I think we've ever really heard Cinder be genuinely desperate. We've heard her be angry before, but not desperate in this sense, I feel. There was, I can still tell that she's not quite where the other actors are yet, but she's getting really, really damn close. And it's minor things now. Like, she's got all the emotion. She's got it's things like pronunciation, enunciation, that kind of stuff that to me are still giving her away as not quite as experienced as everybody else, but still absolutely phenomenal performance.
She definitely has like the power. Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have that, because you can hear when voice actors are holding back.
Mhm.
And like, okay, we need you to yell. I actually saw a voice actor do this on Twitter. He was like, when I say that I need you to yell, it's not a it's like a you need to yell. You know? And like that's something that like her yelling, her screaming was really convincing. It didn't feel at any point in that fight that she was holding back.
Oh, absolutely. Tip for any people who are looking to be voice actors at some point in the future.
Take out your notebooks.
As somebody who has been involved in casting on many an audition, if you send in your audition and there's a yelling line and you're going ah, you're getting skipped over.
Yeah.
It's just actually yell.
real fast. Watts is inspired by Dr. Watson from Sherlock Holmes, but this is a Watson who never connected with Sherlock, perhaps with Moriarty instead. Someone who taught him how to use his intellect for all the wrong things.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, there we go.
So
It's a
he's
little
a
harder to
bad
see
end
that
Dr.
reference.
Watts.
Yeah.
So, in any case, back to the episode, the Winter Maiden goes ham.
She was Super Saiyan.
Yeah, she went Super Saiyan.
I feel like I would appreciate that reference.
Yep. Definitely some Dragon Ball vibes there. And then Penny jumps into the cold because she's a robot and she can.
Can we talk about that moment with Winter and Penny? Like, Penny's like,
Oof.
"What is that?" And Winter's like, "I'm gonna, this is up until a certain
Mhm.
point. This is just gonna be. Can we talk about Winter? Can we talk about Winter? Just bear with me. I'll shut up eventually when we get to a certain point.
No,
But
I love her.
but like that moment where Winter runs to, she's like, that's the power of a fully realized maiden, and she runs to go to Freya, and the cold like literally like burns her glove off and like
Mhm.
burns her hand, and you can see the detail where her fingers are like red
Red.
from being
Mhm.
burned so badly by the frost. And she's like, it's too cold, and of course Penny, being a robot, jumps down. And it's so the moment that was really heartbreaking for me, there were two of those moments in this episode for Winter, is when Penny jumps down and Winter says, Penny, like she calls out to her, like with
Mhm.
a genuine concern, because it's just like A, this is not the plan, and B, it's also like you don't know whether you're going to be able to handle what's down there or not,
Mhm.
you know? And so like
Right.
genuine
Robot parts get
concern.
cold too.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Full Metal Alchemist. Like you're not made out of like carbon fiber to like withstand the heat or whatever. Or to
Mhm.
withstand the cold.
And we did see
So
her leg got frozen to the ground before she,
Yeah.
yeah, she definitely got frozen a little bit.
Yeah,
But
I think maybe a little bit more on that, like maybe like she's moving a bit more stiffly or something might have been interesting,
Yeah.
just to show that she's like really like suffering from the cold too. But
well, that
she
was
just seemed pretty
also
much unaffected.
I think that was also before she got into like the heart of the storm, because she was kind of,
Yeah,
there was
that's true.
still the swirling winds around her when her leg was frozen, and she kicked it off and then stepped into the heart of the storm where Freya was. And
Okay,
there
fair
was
enough,
there
fair
was
enough.
less of the wind going on there. There was less of like the ice shards flying around and everything.
Yeah.
Hurricane effect, the Eye of the Storm thing. Okay.
Yeah, that was the vibe that I got, anyways.
Yeah. So, um, in any case, yeah, Penny jumps into the cold. Oh, by the way, Maria and his name is just Geppetto now. That's all I can remember him.
Pretty much.
Maria and Geppetto have stolen an airship, because of course they did. That sounds like a Maria thing to do.
Who decided
If it worked once.
that she's the fucking getaway driver
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, that seems like a bad
Um,
idea.
That seems like a great
and
idea. What do you mean?
She's the crazy granny.
and they're like, "Yo, Juniper, like, get your asses over here. We're gonna escape." And they're like, "Oh, cool. Let's go. Oscar, where are you?" And he's like, "Nah, fam, I ain't coming. I got some other shit to do. Bye."
I'm gonna go fight James in
Yeah.
the relic room.
I think you
For-
mean General.
Oh,
my
right.
Oh, yikes.
So, so Oscar runs off to go meet Ironwood.
Taking a
Um,
sabbatical.
and Penny is like, back in the maiden chamber. She kind of helps calm Freya down. What's in it? Freya?
Freya.
I think it's
Freya?
Freya.
Okay.
It means cold in Spanish.
That's
Ah.
Not the Norse goddess.
Not the Norse goddess, no.
Gotcha.
She's like, Grandma, you're not you when you're hungry. Here, have a
Have a
Snickers.
Have a freaking Snickers.
There, better.
There better be a meme of that somewhere on the internet.
Oh my god.
Instead of her grabbing her foot, she's like reaching out and holding up a Snickers.
Yep. Yep.
I need this edit.
Corey, get on it.
Somebody Photoshop this.
Please
We'll get Katie.
have
to
my
go.
forever gratitude.
So, in any case, yeah, so Penny manages to calm her down, and Freya is like, "Oh, are you the one? Are you the one that's supposed to receive the powers?" And Penny, like a fucking boss, doesn't give her a straight answer.
She
She's-
says the word I multiple times.
Yup, and she's basically like, "Fuck you, Winter. These powers are mine."
I didn't get that vibe.
No, I'm kidding. But so yeah, kind of jumping back and forth here a lot because the episode jumps back and forth.
A lot.
But Oscar meets Ironwood down in the vault, and conversation doesn't go well. Ironwood is now taken up shooting small children.
To his list of
He
accomplishments.
executed Order 66.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Are you
Okay.
smarter than a 5th grader? No, but I'll shoot one.
But I'll shoot one. Yeah. He does that. I mean, to be fair, at that, I guess there is a change later on when he's falling down the, you know, the Emperor Palpatine Death Star shoot thing, where he like turns into Ozpin finally. He like blinks and then he's, I'm Ozpin. But I kind of get the feeling that Ozpin was in there at least a little bit. Like he walks in very confidently. He's got the cane going. And then Ironwood's
Down
like,
the elevator, Oscar was holding the cane like Ozpin would.
So hang on, I need to answer Ryan Joseph here. Says I think Ironwood is basically Hitler now. I disagree.
Yeah.
he didn't have the
Hitler's
airship at the end of the
ideology was
episode.
about other people being inferior and needing to be purged.
Yeah,
And
I think we need to specify that literally just because someone is in a dictatorial position does not automatically mean that they're the same as Hitler.
Yeah.
There are
Like,
many flavors
Hitler
of
was
dictator.
a very, very niche set of people. Like, and yes, we don't want dictators, period. But, like, at the very least, I still believe that Ironwood's heart is in the right place. He's just going about this thing the whole wrong way.
Yup.
You know,
Well, he's-
it's like what Blake said to Ilya back in Volume 5. It's like you're a good person, but you're making all the wrong decisions.
Well, I think that's very intentional, right? Because again, his character is the Tin Man, right? The heartless character from Wizard of Oz, and I think the problem with his character thus far in the show is that he kind of has had a heart. I mean, sure, he's made some questionable decisions, like during the fall of Beacon, but you know, overall, he's been a pretty good guy. He tried to get people out and evacuate them at the Vital Festival, the Vital Stadium. You know, he's made some good decisions. So I think now the way his character arc is going is that he's fighting against that heart that he has. He's seen that all this ever does is lead to people being hurt and losing and losing. So now he's like, nope, I'm not gonna have a heart anymore. I'm just gonna be heartless and shoot little kids and and screw it. Screw the consequences. I'm gonna do what I think is right, regardless.
I mean, yes,
of what I feel.
he shot Oscar, but I think that in that moment he was aiming for Ozpin. I don't
There's
think
no
he was
doubt
aiming
about
for
that.
Oscar.
That's
He was
just
aiming for
That's just
Ozpin.
a funny
Okay,
saying.
It's just
but
Oscar
this-
was unfortunately in the way.
Also,
Oscar was unfortunately the body that Ozpin was inside.
also, I will point out that Ironwood does
more
know
like
for a
Anakin
fact
Skywalker, no?
that Ozpin is fucking immortal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It's kinda like,
At this
but the
point-
body is.
Oscar is not, however.
Yeah.
yeah, I think this was more just to get him out of the way and a mild bit of personal satisfaction.
I want to see an edit of that scene where Oscar is like, bitch, and then Ironwood's like, blocked, and then Oscar's like, wait, no, unblock me, and then Ironwood's like, unblocked, and then he goes, bitch, and then he shoots him.
I think he just wanted to shoot somebody. You know, he had a big gun battle with Watson. He didn't eventually like kill him and toss him into the lava pit. So he just needed to shoot somebody. You know.
You know, it's funny, and I said this to Sunny. Sunny's my witness. I had said at the very beginning of the episode that the only thing from the opening we still hadn't seen was who Ironwood shoots.
You said that multiple times to me.
Yeah, I was like, who does he shoot? Who's he shooting?
Well, you got your answer.
Yep. I was
Yep.
just like, well, not what I was expecting.
So, in any case, yeah, Oscar gets shot, and then coming back into the vault, or not the vault, coming back into the Maiden Chamber, Cinder breaks back in to take the power of the Winter Maiden, but it's a little too late. Penny takes the power of the Winter Maiden.
No. She jumps in and she freaks out and she's like, she's mine, and she reaches out with her Yowie hand. And tries to big
The goopy
suck the
hand?
power,
Mhm.
and Winter comes in with no aura and cuts her fucking arm off.
Yup.
And then we hear some more of that amazing voice acting from Jessica, where she's
Oh,
like
bless her.
screaming in pain.
As it turns out, the arm grows back, not
And the
without
arm has
like
expanded up to her shoulder.
Mhm.
yeah.
In volume 4 and 5, it was just past her elbow. It was like same spot where Yang's was, really.
Does that mean
Yeah.
it's slowly taking over her body? Is
I
like
think
by
so,
the
yeah.
end of the show, is she just going to be like
I'm-
3/4
A
Grim?
Grim.
I'm
I think she
still
might
well,
be
I'm
a
still
fully unique sentient Grim at that point.
I'm still calling
Hmm.
it, you know, here and now, that the whole point of them, the whole reason you give one of the bad guy underlings an arm that the main bad guy can control is because you're gonna have them choke themselves out at one point. Like we saw it in Harry Potter. Like it's
Okay,
gonna
fair enough.
Fair.
I think that Salem is going to have, like, at one point Cinder's gonna come crawling back to Salem, and that Grim Arm's gonna grab her by the throat, and she's either not gonna walk away from it, like, you know, because it's like one of those you failed
Mhm.
me for the last time, and of course how, like, I feel like that would be the only way to make her feel absolutely truly powerless is to have her own arm kill her, you
Mhm.
know.
Cue
So-
Emeralds to save the day.
Cue Emerald redemption arc.
Yeah. But
Cue Emerald being in the show again.
Yeah.
So Winter and Cinder start fighting because Cinder's still there and Winter's, you know, trying to keep her off of Freya. And in that moment, I don't think Penny necessarily saw any other option. It wasn't necessarily haha yoink, even though I'm still salty. But it just happened, and it was one of those like, okay, well, this is what it needs to be, and she takes the powers. And cue my 10-second clip of me just blocking out the fucking box of Winter Becomes the Winter Maiden on my bingo card.
Yikes.
So
I will say that was a really I really liked the cinematography there, that transition
Mhm.
to Penny being the like we see, you know, Winter gets thrown against the wall, Cinder's gonna go like, you know, kill her or something, and this one little snowflake drifts across the screen. And she's like, huh, that's weird. And then a whole bunch of them come behind her, and then she turns around, and it was good. It was a good. I like that.
It was good shit.
So, yep, Winter fights back against Cinder and gets her ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and
on Penny taking the powers, just we don't know what the long-term effects of that are going to be. Like, does this mean Penny has a full-on soul now?
Well,
Like, she's
I
no
mean,
longer dependent on Geppetto just to, you know, just in case something bad happens? Does it mean that she is now, like, she'll be the last of her kind no matter what?
I mean
Because of
that
this?
it makes sense because she's only ever had a fragment of Pietro's soul before. Like now she has the full on soul of the Winter Maiden. And so I think to a degree it is complete. And you know, we were all thinking that Freya was Freya from Norse mythology, but in reality she was the blue fairy from Pinocchio, the one who makes Pinocchio a real boy.
Hey, there you go.
Mhm.
That
Oh.
makes her a real girl.
Yep, so
Dang.
Penny's a real girl now.
Yay.
Yeah, and she
Still
has one
salty,
life
though.
left to live, and she will never have another, or at least, you know, the Penny we know, because
I mean, realistically, as long as she plays her cards, she plays smart, she is the Winter Maiden. Like, she
Mhm.
will always be the Winter Maiden.
So,
oh wow, I just
yeah.
because she could just think
Didn't
of her.
realize that?
I mean, if you would have to time that very precisely, I would think,
To do
So,
what?
because if she dies and thinks of herself, how long would she have before the powers would immediately transfer?
Why would she think of herself?
What if she were to die, per se, and think of herself? She could technically, if Geppetto were to make her again, technically.
I think
I don't
there
think
has
that's
to
how
be,
that works.
I think there has to
Pietro's
be a
aura
limit
isn't
to
limitless.
Yeah, I think they need to have a living body for the power to transfer. I don't
Yeah,
think just
I feel
clinging
like
desperately to it would keep it there.
What
I
did you mean
feel
by
like
always? Because that's what
having
my mind went to.
see I feel like it would be kind of a Jin situation, right? Where Ruby calls on Jin even though she doesn't have a question to ask. Like I feel like, Jin was real nice in letting Ruby get away with that. She's not going to be allowed to get away with that. Like the maiden powers would be like, "Nah, bitch, you can't do that. Think of somebody else." Like
Or it's going to someone random.
yeah.
3, 2, 1. It really did the vibe. So I have this theory, and obviously she can't. We've never seen whether she does this when she's conscious or not, but it's something that I noticed. And so Penny, to take the power, she reaches down and she holds Freya's hand, and then the power transfers from Freya's hand into Penny's hand, right? And she becomes the maiden. And later on in a scene, you can actually see that part of her palm is burned, and you can see the metal on her palm.
Yeah.
But so I figured it was one of two things, and it could be either one. One of them I feel like makes a little bit more sense, which is I think that it might have happened when I put more thought into it. It might have happened when she reached up and touched Freya's ankle. But in that case, and it could just be an animation thing, why weren't the fingers of her glove burned and not just exclusively the palm? Whereas in the shot where she takes the power from Freya, her palm is what makes full contact. Is what if her palm is a way that she's been able to take, the Pietro's soul? Is maybe that's where she's able to absorb it from. And so that's the reason her glove was burned, is that's literally how her soul was transferred into her. She used essentially the same thing that Pietro uses, but she just did the big suck and took all of it.
Wow.
That
Okay,
was
just
that
looking.
was just a thought that I had.
Yeah, looking back at that scene, her glove is torn when she catches. Like it's already torn when she catches Freya. Like and she calms her down. It's torn in that scene. It's already torn up.
So it was when she grabbed her ankle.
So it is when she grabbed her ankle.
I think so. Or maybe just when she came through the blizzard to begin with. Maybe her glove did the same thing that Winter's did.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
But she just didn't care because she's a robot.
The cold never bothers her anyway.
Does she feel pain?
Oh my god.
She doesn't, right?
She feels emotional pain.
So
I
have to. So, Ozpin winds up returning. I fucking called it. I said it was gonna happen in this episode. He's back. He and he's talking to Oscar as he's falling through the this shaft. Now, so I know I posed this question yesterday in the watch party, but like, what the hell is that shaft for?
I think it was an elevator shaft.
Why? Like that was like some Star Wars bullshit right there.
That's exactly what it was. That was the Emperor Palpatine Death Star. A long drop into and to
Except
be fair,
this time they didn't.
Well, yeah, but it's also. I mean, there was one of those in I think the Empire Strikes Back too, but. They also designed it. Maybe it's a design they do for relic chambers, because I feel like the one in Haven also had the same.
Yeah,
because very long drop.
Cinder falls down. That one, right?
Cinder falls down.
Yeah,
I do want to. Talking about this scene, I do want to talk about. This is the first time we've seen long memory come into play. Ozpin's cane. And after the fact. When Oscar lands and he's like, these memories, I'm wondering if, because he said back in volume 6 that the cane was precious to him alone, I'm wondering if that's if he's developed a way for it to be a kind of quick, like, fail-safe of, I need to regain my memories of how to use my powers, so he can use the cane to unlock that. Because notice how he was able to activate his aura defensively, which was something he hadn't been able to do very well up until that point. He did it perfectly to survive the impact of the bottom of that shaft, And then, once he lands, he's like, "Oh, these my memories, my power, like you're back, aren't you?" And it was only after he used long memory and did whatever it was that Kane did.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe long memory is literally what it is. It reminds him of who he is.
So,
That's possible.
yeah, he does use some new powers. And man, we just keep jumping back and forth here. So, Weiss and RWBY show up to the Maiden Chamber, and RWBY uses her silver eyes
Baby girl uses her eyes.
to boop Cinder out of the way.
Well, she doesn't boop Cinder. Cinder, for someone who talks so much shit about how she's gonna fuck RWBY up the next time she sees her, nopes the fuck out of there real quickly. She's just like,
fuck that shit, I'm out.
she's just like, man, fuck RWBY, I'm gonna mess her up, blah blah. She's right behind me, isn't she?
It's that goopy arm she's got.
She's making that face again, isn't she? Silver eyes glow.
So, in any case, yeah, she nopes the fuck out of there, and then Oscar uses his power to break out of the bottom of Atlas. And Winter is fucked up but alive. Crow and Robin are arrested. Team RWBY and Juniper get away in the airship. But I really want to talk about this voiceover that we get from Shannon McCormick, Ozpin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if y'all noticed this or not. But did anybody else notice the fact Shannon McCormick was reading Ozpin was much more reminiscent of the way Aaron Dismuke reads Oscar?
Yes, I did
Yes.
actually. It felt more like Oscar than
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave myself the check on the bingo board of Oscar and Ozpin have assimilated somehow, because I think that at least at that moment, that was the moment where they did, or at least have officially begun the process.
Yeah, it's really, they've already begun because we've started to see Oscar develop more tendencies that are very similar to Ozpin and whatnot. Like even like how he was holding his cane as he was coming down the thing.
Which he says is just him. Oh, I just wanted to hold it that way. But I mean, this is, I think, a little Ozpin bleeding over.
Why would he? Yeah, why would he want to hold it that way unless it was the muscle memory and that's what felt comfortable to him?
Exactly. So the assimilation
It's
process.
like little
has already
tiny
started.
signs to watch out for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the small
How to
things.
tell your friend has been possessed by a millennia-old guy. Yeah.
Suddenly developing habits that you never had.
Yeah,
Check.
Shannon McCormick is just an incredible actor. How
yes,
how
it's
believably he
incredible.
pulled off like this merger of Ozpin and Oscar was just, oh man.
Beautiful.
The music too.
Magnifique.
The music and the cinematics of him like opening his eyes and then just falling and hearing like the soft piano playing like while he was falling through the air and whatnot.
There's nothing more like poetic isn't the right word, but that like in free fall with like ballet music going. I don't know what it is. They did it in Ice Age. They did it.
It honestly reminded me of one of my favorite moments from Avengers Endgame actually, which is when Hawkeye wakes up in the water and he has the Soul Stone in his hand and he looks like he's just kind of floating in space for a second and there's just the very soft music playing in the background. Like that was kind of the vibe that I got, is it felt very much like it felt almost like a dream sequence for a second. And I really, really loved that was kind of, it was this moment of like, where am I? Oh, I'm plummeting towards the ground. There was just this moment of peace before okay, I need to figure out my landing strategy.
Well, you know what they say. It's not the fall that kills you, it's the sudden stop at the end.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my god.
So, in any case, Winter decides to give everyone a head start at running because she's too hurt to leave.
She could have just waited for like 3 seconds. Jean could have hopped out and fixed her aura, and she would have been
She's clearly on Ironwood's side, but Penny decides to run with everyone else. That follow that up with Neo presents the relic to Cinder, and Cinder doesn't even say thank you.
Not even
can
a
I just
single
say
head pat.
I don't really think that Winter's not entirely on Ironwood's words. But it was like just the way she chose to say her words to Weiss and not specifying to him in that message who, like, she just says like about what happened to the Winter Maiden. She just says it's gone. She doesn't say it's Penny. You know, my kid's sister and her friends were all here. It was just very vague to me, and I just think that maybe this is the way she thinks she can have a semblance of control over the situation. That's
Maybe
my
yeah.
thoughts on it.
It could be like she's having it a little bit of both ways, because she could have turned them in. She could have said, "Yo, the kids are escaping on an airship. They're right here. Come get them."
Because what did Weiss say? She was like, "I'm not leaving you." Weiss said, "I'm not leaving you. You're her." And Winter immediately is like, "You're not leaving me. I'm giving you that head start."
Right.
I just thinking about a little more. Maybe I just like Winter too much. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. But I'm not Sunny for nothing.
Yeah,
I think you're
that's
right there.
really important. Like, especially her way of wording things, because it's one of those. It's like it really broke my heart, because it was one of those, like, there was a post that I read, and Sunny was just like, who made this post? I'm gonna fight them, because it was like, you know, these two sisters, you know, like they really reinforced this, you know, they reassured how much these two sisters care about each other, how much they love each other, and they support each other, and that these two sisters are carving their own path for themselves, and you know, how these paths are going to cross again at some point in the future in a very heartbreaking way, I think.
I still need that person. I need some receipts.
No, I'm not calling the person out. I'm not sending you after
gotta
him.
fight. Gotta fight.
Oh wow, really?
What?
We're not gonna call them out. Sunny
No,
wants to
I'm
go
not
after
gonna
them.
call him out.
I'm
No,
gonna
but
fight.
You want to fight?
that
I'm buff. I'm so buff.
you're a noodle. Calm down.
No, I'm not.
You're like a bean, okay? Chill.
I could probably spin you around with one hand.
No,
So-
that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
But yeah, that moment with Weiss and Winter was really, really heartbreaking to me, just because it was this moment of like it's like those moments in really, really dramatic, like, movies where you've got the two characters facing each other, and it's kind of like, no, come with me, blah blah blah, and then the ground just splits between them, and then they drift apart on the two halves, you know, like that was just how that whole scene felt, and just the looks that they had before Weiss turned to leave was just, it broke my heart. Like, there's nothing I love more about this show than like I love RWBY and Yang. I love that they're sisters, but the dynamic between Weiss and Winter has always been something that resonated with me so much more. And it really broke my heart. Like, it made me really sad.
Yeah, no, I like what Weiss says there too. She says we all have to carve out our own way, right? Like, she's acknowledging that Winter's trying to have it. You know, she's staying on Ironwood's side, but she's also not turning them in, right? And she's just like, you know, maybe I disagree with your choice here. I think you should come with us. We can just heal you. We have a healer. But
we have the technology.
We have the technology.
Well, either way, though, they're not really leaving because they encounter something on their way out of Atlas.
Before
well, still talking about this Winter moment, like, and it's funny because in my reaction, I'm just like, fuck off, Winter, because she's all like, she's like injured, and she's just like, she's basically like, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, and they're like, nah. And She's just like, okay, then get the fuck out of here. Like, it's just like she's still trying to arrest them, even though she's like, it's like, how are you
Like,
going
I
to
suggest
stop
you should
us?
comply with the general's orders, and they're like, we can't
just
do
like-
that.
Like,
Then
we'll
I
keep
suggest you run.
that.
So-
But yeah,
So, yeah, Ironwood finds out that the maiden powers are gone. By the way, Watts is alive. Called it.
Oh yeah.
Oh
No
yeah.
death scene, not dead.
He should have been
Yeah.
melted into lava a long time ago.
Where was? How did we confirm Watts was alive?
He
You
was.
see a
Yes.
shot of him
You
sitting
see a
in
shot
a
of
jail
him, and
cell.
he's sitting in a jail cell. Yeah.
Looking
Oh.
remarkably still alive.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, I forgot about that. It was like,
So-
wait,
Love
Watts
it.
is alive? Did I forget that scene? Yes, I did.
selective
So-
memory.
Yes, I did.
Oscar survives using his powers, and Ozpin seems to start trying to explain himself as to why he just fucking up and disappeared. And Oscar's like, "Yo, my dude, shut up. All I care about is how we save Atlas next." And that is when, as Team Ruby and Juniper and Penny all fly away in their stolen airship with Maria at the helm,
As usual.
as usual, a giant grim whale appears with Salem riding on
It's
top,
Gross.
Sky
and
Wells.
Salem has a new outfit.
Titty.
So,
Wow.
so
First
so-
of all, we have all these Pinocchio things going on, and we get a flying whale.
Can
So-
I
yeah.
talk about how I want to say it was episode 7 or 8 again that I was like, I'm pretty sure the last scene of this volume is going to be Salem rolling up. Did I not say that? Does anyone remember me saying
no,
that?
we remember
Nope.
you saying that.
I
I
do.
don't.
So here's the thing. If you are new to this podcast, there is a tradition that we have that you might not be aware of, in that we give funny names to grim bosses.
Oh.
This,
Oh, it's that
this
time again?
started, This
Oh, it's
started with
absolutely that time.
yeah. So this started with the Neclave, because back when the Wyvern came out, we hadn't established this practice yet. So unfortunately, the Wyvern is still Kevin, which is actually his canon name. We
Honestly, we
did
should keep
not
that.
we were not able to name him, unfortunately. However, the Neclave is Scary Larry, and the
Because
Leviathan
it's
is
scary.
yeah, and the Leviathan is Swimmy Jimmy.
Yes.
So
So what's this Leviathan? gonna be
unfortunately, I have not been able to sit down and really properly think about this. So I really want to kind of put this out to you guys and our audience in the chat about what you think he needs to be named. However, there are conventions to the name. So here, the most important thing is that the name is 2 words and that the words rhyme, and generally it has to end in E.
That is to say, why?
Y, yes.
An E sound or
Honestly,
a
I
Y.
was just
Me
tempted
scary.
to say Free Willy and end it there.
Oh, that
Free Willy.
you know, that's actually I was gonna say because the Moby Dick references are hard to ignore here, but
Mm-hmm.
Free Will is good. It's not an orca, but
If we
So
can,
whales are orcas or dolphins, so they're not actually whales. But
I mean, fair point.
Killy Willy.
Killy Willy?
I think Killy Willy.
No.
No.
No. No. What do you guys think in the
It's too
chat?
hard.
So while we're thinking about this, can I prose this theory
Okay.
to get a whole lot of Beau no moments in this.
oh no.
So
Get ready.
not a serpent, not a serpent, but a giant sea beast, which is true. Is so this whale, it looks like it's got some kind of like gas or some kind of like power in its like mouth / like nose area.
it's where
and
the buoyancy would be in a normal sperm whale. assuming
Yeah,
that this was
and
underwater.
so some kind of, some kind of poison, like gas potentially that it could, I don't know, maybe breathe out, or if it's monstro, it could potentially eat some of our heroes and heroines. And I just want to say that in Ragnarok, Thor fights Jormungandr, which is the world serpent, gets eaten by the world serpent and poisoned by a gas and dies at
Yeah.
Ragnarok.
He
And
kills
so
the serpent, but the
I
serpent
think
breathes poison on him.
I think that Nora needs to stay the fuck away from that thing.
No,
Yep.
stop that. You need to stop that.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Look, we
and
told
we
you.
just had the
Bo warned you.
wait. We just
Yep.
had the
Oh,
moment in this
no.
episode where Ren was like, "Wait, I think I love Nora."
No.
No.
Stop it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think
I
Nora
don't
needs
like
to stay
this
away.
theory.
This does not spark joy.
No,
Every episode,
it does
though.
not.
Every episode you
Does
do
not
this.
spark joy.
How on earth? Like, what dark corner of your soul do you have to search to find this stuff? Actually,
doesn't
no.
take a whole lot
I
of
got my. I
searching.
forgot your soul is entirely black as sin. What was I
Yep.
thinking?
Yep. To the point of, and Sunny was there during my reaction of the episode. They show the shot where Winter like tumbles on the ground and her hair is down, and I'm like, oh, her hair is down. Not the time, Beau. Not the time. I had to remind myself.
Yeah, Winter
hair's
has
down.
good hair. She should wear it down more often.
That's why we have fan art now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
That's like the best thing to come from
So
this
much Winter
finale.
with her hair down fan art. It's
It's
breathing
so good.
life back into me.
Mm-hmm. My skin is clear. My crops are watered. I really like Grilly Willy. Is that what it was?
Grilly Willy.
Willy.
I saw Silly Billy and I was like, we're getting there. We're getting there.
I mean, I would say it has to be something whale related. But then
Yeah.
again, Scary Larry is not related to the Naquavi
No,
at
it's
all.
not. But when it came out, it was just so perfect.
I mean, scary. So, I mean, generally, it has to be named after something that is really prominent to the Grimms. So, the Clave was scary, ergo Scary Larry. Swimmy Jimmy is a Leviathan. He swims in the sea. So, that's where it came from.
Does that make this a flappy kind of thing? It has wings?
Flappy
Flappy Bird? What the fuck?
Flappy Whale, that's what we call it.
Flappy
I'm personally
bird.
still gonna call him Monstro because that's who he's based off of. So,
Yeah.
So,
or the incredible dogfish.
we'll keep keep the suggestions coming, guys.
Yeah.
But so in any case, we have we've now come to the end of this season, and I really want to talk about just overall impressions of this season as a whole.
Ooh. I have thoughts.
Okay.
Take him.
All right.
Person with
Ian,
thoughts, go.
Go ahead. What are your thoughts on this season as a whole?
This has been my favorite season since Volume 3. Bam! Wow, that's
Really?
Dang.
Okay.
wow, my voice cracked there. That's not impressive, but yeah, Volume 3 has just been on this pedestal for me for a very long time. For 3 whole seasons, 4, 5, and 6, I've always been wanting to get back to what 3 showed us, and we all know what happened. Rest in peace, Monty. But
Mhm.
I was always hoping that one day I might get the feelings that were brought up in me during Volume 3. It's not to say that the show was bad, but just the feelings that were brought to mind when I was watching Volume 3, when it was just me, Bryant, and Forrest who were just getting on the phone. It was just, what is happening? I can't believe it. Look at this stuff. It looks amazing. I haven't
Also
felt that.
sad.
Yeah.
I have not felt that way about this show for a very long time, and I've been wanting to get back to it for so long. And to finally get back there, for me, was just I was in tears for several times during the show because I was just so happy to feel this way about this show again, because this is why this podcast existed in the first place.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
we've seen a lot of things progress. We've seen callbacks to old favorites, the landing strategy. We've been introduced to the Aesops, a plethora of new characters. We've been introduced to a kingdom in a fully fleshed out and successful way that we didn't really get to with I can't remember the previous continent that we were
Mistral?
on. Yeah,
Anima?
Mistral.
Anima? Yeah.
Anima's the continent, yeah.
Yeah, that we weren't really given with Mistral. We kind of just breezed through. Like when we got to like the main hubs in the school with Mantle, we didn't have that. We got like a very expansive deep dive into the society and its problems and what's going on. We
Mhm.
had solid villains. We had multiple factions working, not necessarily in tandem, but at the same time independently wreaking havoc and destruction. And we still got some pretty epic battles. Like, who hasn't. I've been waiting to see Team Funky come back since Season 3. We got them back. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see probably some more teams come back in the future. Like when. Because people are thinking we're going to go to Vacuo at some point in the next season or two. Team Sun will come back. So my hopes have never been higher. And
Okay.
I'm so happy to feel this way again. It feels
Can
good.
I pose the question of can we name the whale Richard because Moby Dick?
I like that.
I like it.
Richard.
Richard.
It doesn't
I think
follow
I
the
saw that
convention.
Oh, there's
but I
Richard
do
again.
like it. It doesn't follow the
Oh,
convention, but I
Richard.
do like it.
Have you heard
Floating
about Richard?
around.
It could be Richard and Kevin. They're coffee buddies.
Oh my god.
They're both big flying boys.
So we have Kevin, Richard, Larry, and Jimmy. I'm sorry,
Yep.
does this not sound like an IT department
I'm
to you guys?
color me sold. Color me sold. He is officially Richard now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
It sounds
love
like we're
putting your
talking about
Richard
an
away.
IT department at some place.
So, can we talk about the line that Glinda has in Volume 3 where Ozpin treats everything like it's a case of measuring dicks because Caleb just rolled up with the biggest dick of them all? Because his name's Richard.
Beau!
That's-
What the heck, Beau?
I applaud thee.
She's
So-
got
That's
Richard
funny.
and her titties out, man. She's ready.
So, Forrest, what are your thoughts on Volume 7?
My thoughts. I'm kind of in the same camp as Ian. I think on this one, we had some things to say about some previous seasons, Volume 5, but the fights. It was just the production value on the season was so good. The fights were really good and just fluid, and we had some very good world building. There were still a few moments that I'm, a little iffy about. I wasn't on the podcast last week, but we had a big argument, at the start of this this podcast about certain decisions certain characters made and how the stupid seemed to be going around and seemed to be contagious. But yeah, overall, just phenomenal.
Okay, Beau.
I absolutely adored this season until the last 7 minutes.
Oh, really?
And I don't really know how to put it into words without sounding like, without coming across like, oh, it wasn't good enough, meh, elitist kind of shit, because I adored this season. Like, don't get me wrong. This volume, most of it is hands down probably my favorite volume so far. However, the last, like, basically the second half of this episode really had me feeling a certain way that reminded me very much of how I felt at the end of Volume 2. Volume 2 is my least favorite volume of all of them, and I almost stopped watching the show just because of how much I disliked the show, how the show had progressed from volume 1, where it was so hype and I was just excited to see where these characters went, and then volume 2 felt to me like it didn't go anywhere at all, and I was just like, well, if this is if like, at the time when RWBY was coming out, I really didn't care for like slice of life type shows, and volume 2 really felt like slice of life to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so
It
that's
was
kind of
fairly holding
why,
pattern, yeah.
yeah, and so that's kind of why I didn't like it, and I just felt so like disappointed at the end of volume 2, and I think I just think that it got to that point of, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, that it just kind of got to the point of, we've kind of got a lot of shit to wrap up in like less than 10 minutes now. So I think I can see where they were trying to go with it. I wish that there had been a little bit more of a neater cleanup to me. It just really felt like they rushed the cleanup
With this season or volume 2?
with this season.
There were a lot of loose ends, and they kind of, like, the last montage is sort of just a collection of the loose ends, right? Of just like,
yeah,
this team is headed off, this team is doing this, Oscar's there, and then also Salem.
Yeah, and then
Like, they just kind of leave everything.
The thing that really kind of, and I totally get not wanting to crunch. So like I understand where the tweet came from and like the reasoning behind it. But Carrie had tweeted that the reason there wasn't a post-credit scene was to put all of that effort into the actual main story episodes, and not have it take away from that. I personally think, because it really just felt, it really felt, I think if there had been a post credit scene, maybe I would have felt better about it, just because it kind of felt like the season itself ending where it did was just this sudden hard stop, and it felt kind of almost a jarring ending to me.
I
And
agree.
so I personally feel like my fix it mentality of it, that if I think of it in this sense, because it still is the last thing we see, so it would work anyways, is my fix it sense is have a beautiful parallel of the very opening shot of the first episode of this season, where the last shot before the credits is them flying away from Atlas, because it's a perfect parallel. The opening shot of volume 7 was them flying to Atlas in the airship that's all beat up, the last one being them flying out of Atlas in the new airship, and then had the post-credit scene be Salem showing up.
I do
I think
agree
that
the
honestly would have
end scene
probably
was
That
a
might have
little
worked.
jarring.
of the last couple minutes for me,
Okay.
because it really just felt like they closed it off too suddenly, and then to not have anything to kind of round it out at the end of the credits was kind of where I was just like, wow, that was really kind of just, that's it. Like, it didn't feel like, oh man, I can't wait till the next volume, because it was like,
It didn't
okay,
feel like
they've
a real
always had
finale.
it felt like a series finale, and that kind of is what really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, in that they've always had a post credit scene. And I get, again, I get the whole like not wanting to crunch or whatever like that. However, it's, to me, the fact that the credits ended on that note, and they hadn't let us know like ahead of time, hey, there's not a post credit scene. So it felt like, okay, we are waiting for the post credit scene, and then to not have one, like even when I was working at AMC and we had Endgame come out, Endgame doesn't have a post credit scene. we at least told people, but when they went in, hey, there's no post-credit scene. People didn't believe us, of course, because they thought we were fucking with them. But we were like, hey, just letting you know there's no post-credit scene because there's 20 minutes of credits at the end of Endgame. So like we wanted to try and save people the time of waiting all the way to the end. And of course you want to sit there and watch and get, recognize all the credit from people. But it was just kind of really frustrating to be like, okay, how are they really going to tie out the end of this volume? And then to not have anything be there was really kind of disappointing, to be honest.
Okay.
That's how I felt.
So, Sunny, what are your thoughts on Volume 7?
I really, really liked Volume 7. I think there were some really great character moments that were just like, what a light on like some character development too. On brain just went whoosh, because I just have so much love for this volume. There was great like animation. They really stepped up, I feel, from the previous volumes to this one. Sorry. Ow. I really enjoyed just watching the fights. This volume, I think, have been spectacular compared to since they, changed from what was it? Poser to Maya. Like every single fight, almost every single fight. There were some that I didn't really like. Were just on the mark. They like had you on the edge of your seat. They were great. There was what was it? 2 episodes ago, last episode with the Team RWBY fight against the Aesops with just that like they would hit like slow-mo like when Yang was like fighting with Vine and just throwing him to the ground and just really like conscious shots that they decided to do these things I thought was amazing. That being said, I also agree that this final episode did fall a little bit flat. Everything was great, like Beau said in the first half, but towards the end, and like the whole time, it felt like there was so much going on, you can't really breathe. Like there was so much jumping. And then how it just kind of trailed off, and also how Team RWBY really didn't have like a focus on this episode at all. And they're our protagonists. They're the name of the show. They're the title characters, and I don't even know if like they had 5 minutes of screen time. Maybe they did. I don't know.
I watched Erin's reaction earlier, Erin Zek, to the finale, and she was like, what happens? I don't know. Did I even have any lines this episode? So that to me was just kind of like a ooh.
Yeah, so
Someone already made it, by the way.
Oh god. That was quick.
I love it.
Somebody made the penny with the Snicker.
Wait, let me get back to my desk. I leave for 1 minute, and somebody posts fan art.
So, yeah, so in terms of my thoughts about Volume 7, there is a lot of stuff in this volume that I think was a major step up from the previous seasons. And there was also a fair amount of stuff that I felt was a step down. First of all, just the entire technical team, from the animators to the lighters, mocappers, I also want to, shout out the, my peeps in the audio team, Chris Kokonos and and everybody there for doing sound for RT Animation. Y'all freaking killed it. The entire technical team this season absolutely killed it. As usual, the show looks and sounds better than it has ever before. It's really amazing to me how they're able to consistently keep upping the quality of the show every single season. So hats off to you guys for doing that incredible of a job. My big issues with this season, as usual, really stem from the writing. And one of my, we talked about it at the very beginning of this season. We kind of recapped our thoughts on Volume 6, and we all seem to kind of agree that the first 2/3 of Volume 6 up until they get to Argus were pretty solid writing wise. There wasn't a whole lot to complain about. And then when we got to Argus and, spent time on various other things, that's where things got a little weird. But for me, I did not get this in Volume 7. I had there was generally something that felt weird or didn't make sense or wasn't set up properly, almost from episode 1, and that was pretty from episode to episode. A lot of stuff character wise was not set up properly. For the first time in a very long time, we had moments where it really felt like the plot dictated the characters and not the other way around. So we actually had characters seemingly doing things out of character to serve the plot. Which, I mean, not the perhaps the most prominent example of that. The whole thing with Crow and Clover and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, writing wise, unfortunately, I have to say I have a lot more complaints about this season than I did Volume 6. I do really appreciate the work that they're doing. I actually really liked this last episode. I really liked how they had kind of set it up pacing wise, in that there is this notion in writing called Meanwhile Back at the Ranch, where when you, just as a particular story is starting to get boring, you swap to another set of characters telling their story. And so we were swapping between Juniper, and we were swapping between Winter and Penny and Cinder, right? And then when Oscar split off, we were swapping between Oscar as well. So and I really liked kind of how they spread it out, where you can tell that the cuts between those different stories are gradually getting gradually getting closer and closer and closer, essentially upping the overall energy. It kind of puts you on. It makes everything much more tense. Jump, 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 jump. And over the course of the episode, the jumps got closer and closer together, all the way up until the end, to the point where during that during Ozpin's talk, you're literally swapping between the different stories with mere seconds between them. And so I really, really appreciated that touch that they did. It seems like not everybody did, but I really appreciated that. I thought that was really interesting. In terms of having the Salem show up, and leaving all these loose ends, I can understand where you guys are coming from in terms of feeling like it was kind of sudden and abrupt, but I am much overall, I think this is probably one of the better endings to a season that we've had, and the reason being is that rather than trying to wrap everything up instantly, they left those open ends to be solved next season. So you can debate back and forth about whether or not that really is an actual ending, if you just leave everything open like that to be solved next season. But I appreciated that they didn't try to tie it all up in 10 minutes.
To me,
I could see
kind
that.
of felt like they, like at the very beginning of it, they tried to tie things up and then decided halfway through the ending sequence, you know what, let's not tie everything up. So then it felt like there was this build up to them tying off ends, and then there was no tying off of ends. That's what it felt like to me.
I see. Okay.
It
Well,
didn't necessarily feel like they went into the ending of the episode with the intention of, leaving it open-ended, which I would have been fine, because it's like, obviously we know that 8 and 9 have already been greenlit. There's going to be an 8 and 9. But like, it, to me, it felt like, okay guys, we're going to start doing the, let's start tidying up a little bit here. We've got, we've only got a few more minutes. You know what? They can wait till next volume. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
Okay.
I wonder if it's a product of that pacing you were talking about, Brian, the gradually closer and closer together skips that sort of build tension and build energy, and then maybe the payoff at the end was like it fell a little flat because all this build up, and then it's just like, and stay tuned for next time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That I can definitely see where you're coming from there. So ultimately, I have to say, from a writing standpoint, I really preferred Volume 6 over Volume 7. There was just one of their core issues that has always been present, and we've talked about it many times on the podcast, is show don't tell. And it feels like they're really trying to push that show don't tell mentality. They really, like, they are paying attention to it. But this season felt like they removed the tell, but kept the amount that they were showing the same, and didn't necessarily try to expand on how much they were showing to make certain things make sense. Like the interactions between Ren and Nora, interactions between Ruby and Oscar, just, what happened with Crow and Clover, and and I know I've said it multiple times on the podcast already, these things could all be solved by just having a little bit more time to explore these things. So I right now it feels like their character writing is probably what is lacking the most, because they still have these instances where the plot is dictating the characters, and they're not showing everything. They're not showing the thought processes as much as I think they need to be showing the thought processes of the characters. So that's probably my biggest complaint about Volume 7. I'm sure we go on hiatus and wait until Volume 8. I will rewatch Volume 7 in its entirety probably a couple times and be able to form more cohesive thoughts on the volume as a whole. And I'm sure I'll have more to say on it come Volume 8. But there was a lot of really amazing stuff. The fights were better than they have ever been. The more I think about it, the more I think that RWBY versus Aesop's is my favorite fight in the entire series.
It was definitely my favorite fight of this season.
And agreed.
Because it was not only like I really like the fight this episode with Penny and Cinder and Winter. Like, it was just that it was dynamic, it was fluid, it was great. But the one RWBY versus the Aesop's, that one had those moments too, like those Monty moments from the first couple of seasons, where just like, oh, that's a really cool. I wouldn't have thought to do that in a fight, but it had like some of those really cool moments, and that's what sold it for me.
Yeah, well, and I talked about it on the other one too. Is it felt like what the big battle fight at the end of Volume 5 should have been.
Yeah,
like that.
I think it goes some way to redeeming that.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the Aesop's versus RWBY fight. So yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff. There were a lot of really cool, interesting plot developments. But they're just not as much payoff on that. Like this whole thing between Ren and Nora, as I look back on it now, it feels like, I'm sure that they've still got some things cooking for Ren and Nora. But with Ren and Nora, it really felt like the one reason that they had them fight and had them, get together in that one scene was to provide a really exciting, happy moment of levity just before everything went to shit. So it really didn't feel like the reason
you
why.
knew bad things were gonna happen when Ren and Nora would start interacting.
Yeah,
We
so
knew.
like
We knew.
We've seen this before on this show.
but but I mean what I mean is it really felt like they went all the way into making Renora canon specific, not for the sake of the characters but for the sake of a plot moment, right? And this is what I
Yeah.
mean by the character, like the plot is dictating the characters and not the other way around. So
See, maybe I've just been spoiled having seen Game of Thrones season 8.
Fast.
But
There's some misinformation that's being
Didn't
spread
bother
in
to
the
research.
chat right now. Volume 8 is going to be longer. They said it at New York City Comic Con back in October that Volume 8 will be longer and Volume 9 will be shorter, but Volume 9 will be what ties 7 and 8 together. Also, Brian, you might be better at explaining this about why like how expensive upping the runtime for the episodes would be.
Oh yeah,
because people are talking about like, oh, they only have 13 episodes and then the episodes are so short, like they need more time. Like you might be able to.
This is something that I have been saying from the beginning of this podcast, is that a lot of the issues really do seem to feel like they can be solved by quote unquote simply upping the runtime, and that is probably true. However, upping the runtime is an incredibly difficult and unbelievably expensive proposition. So
and
not
it's
only
like
are
RWBY
you
just got acquired for HBO Max like
Yeah.
Genlock.
so not only are you talking about more time spent actually making the episodes, more resources in terms of paying your people to be in the seat longer, potentially getting into issues that like they're trying to avoid right now of crunch, right? So there's it not only changes how much money you're having to spend, it's also changing how much time you're having to spend making stuff. It's changing the amount of resources you need. You might need to hire on new people. And you know, I mean, seriously, upping the budget, or sorry, not upping the budget, upping the runtime, you're talking about like from what it seems like they're doing, like 18 minutes up to a full 24. That is probably a tens of millions of dollars worth of a proposition to up that, perhaps more. I don't know exactly the budgets that they're working with, but rest assured it is incredibly expensive. So while upping the runtime I do think would help solve some of these issues, I totally understand why they haven't and why they may not even next season, especially considering they're getting a longer season.
Honestly,
so what you're saying is money would help.
Money would help.
But yeah, money would help. Yeah.
Here's my big thing. I'm wondering why, after one season, Genlock got acquired by HBO Max.
Marketing.
Marketing, sure, but it's just.
I think it was a story they really wanted to tell, and it didn't do as well as they had hoped on their own platform, so they pushed it elsewhere.
And my thought is, like, I'm presuming, of course, that Genlock will get that same level of quality we saw in its first season continuing on, because HBO's got money.
So I did want to point out real fast. I did a little looking up, and these numbers sound familiar. I'm not sure how accurate these numbers are, so it's got kind of like a price range. But generally speaking, for about 60 seconds of 3D animation, without any characters or models that are adapted, that they're just like basic, like you just like plug and play animations, you're looking at about $10,000 minimum for a minute of animation, and it can go upwards of $200,000 to $250,000 for complex projects with multiple characters per minute. That's $200,000 for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So adding 5-6 extra minutes to the end of each episode, you're talking, you're talking
$1 million.
Yeah, over $1 million to expand. And that's if those numbers are honestly, those numbers sound low to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it is, well, so while you've heard me say, more runtime before on this podcast, more runtime would help. Um, uh, definitely understand that it's not nearly as simple as just, write it to be longer. Like, that's...
They would if they could.
Yeah.
I'm just, to my point is just, I'm wondering, should Rooster Teeth try and do what they have done with Genlock to RWBY so that they can actually perfect this vision? Because it seems like we're getting a lot of what we're asking for, but what we're missing is just so obvious that it's jarring at times. Just like how much more could be done with more episodes, because we're at 13 episodes, and I think that a 25-minute episode with maybe 20 episodes would have been far more complete of a tale. I'm wondering why they haven't done that.
How many millions would that be, though?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't... So, first of all, you're I don't know that necessarily putting it on HBO or whatnot, because
I'm not
I don't know. I don't...
HBO, but I'm saying
So-
that why haven't they tried to find someone with that level of backing to push the show forward?
What I'm surprised that they haven't done, because I think they underestimate how many fans they have and how much fans are actually willing to support the cause. Is if they really wanted to up their production value, throwing out a Kickstarter.
I don't think that would fly for anyone, because they are making a ton of money off of RWBY. They've got licensors overseas. They've got I don't think... I mean, you might get some fans, but I feel like there would definitely be a backlash towards that. I don't think that would be looked on favorably. Everybody knows that the best way to support the show is to become a first member.
Mm-hmm.
So go become a first member, join Rooster Teeth's platform. As far as why they haven't gone and tried to work with another licensor like HBO to potentially give them more money to do something, I can really only speculate on that, but I would imagine a lot of it stems from wanting to have control over their properties. And with Genlock didn't do well on, or at least to my understanding is that Genlock did not do well on the Rooster Teeth platform.
But
so
financial failure.
Right. So if it didn't do well on the Rooster Teeth platform, then it makes sense to put it on another platform and see if it does better someplace else and if that's more lucrative. But RWBY is already making money on their own platform, and a lot of the Rooster Teeth fan base centers around RWBY. RWBY is their mainstay. Moving it off the platform would be a huge risk, to potentially moving it to a platform that maybe it has more viewers, maybe HBO could write them a big check, but if RWBY doesn't give HBO the return that they need, then all that check does is really go back into making the show better. But then when it doesn't do well on that other platform, they're not going to get as big of a check next time. And you're also risking pissing off a shit ton of fans by moving it off the platform that the show has always been on.
I'm not necessarily saying
that's probably the biggest fear, I'd say,
but
probably.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much influence well, I know obviously because I'm in business that they would probably want some control, but I'm wondering, considering the level of success they already have, how hands-on a backer would need to be satisfied. That's just a thought for another time, but that's me thinking out loud.
I mean, it depends on the producer. It's some producers will just throw money at stuff. Other producers will be involved. It really depends on the individual, and the company. But with a company like HBO, for example, obviously it's pure speculation. I don't really know that much about HBO, but given how large they are, I imagine that they probably just they're probably not all that hands-on, that they just throw money at things and say, yeah, this looks like it'll make us money, and maybe
So
they
long
might
as it
check in
works.
every now and again. But because with a company as big as HBO, I don't think it's possible for them to be hands-on with every single property they have.
Yeah. Probably only the big stuff.
Yeah. So in any case, yeah, the idea of making the idea of putting RWBY on a different platform, or or just quote unquote simply upping the runtime, there are, while these things might potentially solve the immediate problem, there are other major problems that also come with that, ranging from piss to just things being exceedingly more expensive to do. So yeah, I really hope that Volume 7 does well. Also, make sure that you're buying RWBY merch, buy the Blu-ray when it comes out, by the soundtrack.
Official RWBY merch, like
Official RWBY merch.
buying stuff on like
From the Rooster Teeth
Redbubble.
store.
Yeah, Redbubble, Etsy, eBay. That stuff is not official
No
RWBY
bueno.
merch.
Yeah.
Store.roosterteeth.com
Or
is
bust.
the most direct way to support the series. Please, please support the series. Please, RWBY is over. I literally just went to go and grab a screenshot from the episode, and guess what? My first expired this morning. Guess what I just did? Renewed it.
Mhm.
Because even though the show is done, I'm still going to support it, because they still need to be making money, and they need to see that I'm rewatching and obsessing over these episodes, because they will see that information.
Mhm.
They'll
Yeah,
be like, wow, this one person is single-handedly funding Volume 8.
So if you guys are like me and are like, man, I think this show would be so much better if they had more runtime, give them more of your money.
Yep. It'd
Money
be like
equal
that.
runtime.
It's really that simple.
Just
Yeah.
throw it at them. Throw it.
Throw
Yep.
it at
Yep.
the screen. No, actually, don't throw it at the screen. Go to roosterteeth.store.com.
That doesn't
Credit
work.
card number. Right in that little box.
You too can be a supporter.
Yeah.
You
So
too can be
And I mean,
scammed by a Nigerian prince. Just give them your credit card number.
and technically speaking, if you become a first member, you get a shout out in the credits. How cool is that? You know? Like, you
Mhm.
can guarantee that you get a shout out in the credits, because they shout out all first
Mhm.
members. So
Yup.
it's like dope.
Yep.
We love Rooster Teeth. We love this show. This show is so good, and I wanna see it keep getting made, and I wanna see where it goes.
Just a quick shout out to my Kurumi saying buy all the products. That is the strategy.
Yep, it sure is.
Yep.
So, in
I bought
any
all of my Christmas gifts for people from Rooster Teeth's site this year.
So, in any case, to kind of round out what I was saying, the bottom line for me is, on a technical level, production quality and whatnot, they continue to keep killing it and upping it every season, and that is awesome. And this season was no exception. There was some truly badass, amazing stuff that was really good, really exciting, and I really did overall enjoy this season. It's just, the thing that has consistently been an issue with the show has always been in the form of writing, and the writing has dramatically improved from the beginning of the show.
I think that I want to give a shout out to Eddie and Kiersey, the two new writers that they brought in this volume.
Mm-hmm.
Were so incredible. Also talking about people behind the scenes. As always, Jeff Williams knocks it out of the park.
Yes,
But Alex
Jeff
Abraham,
Williams, Alex Abraham, Casey Williams.
Yep.
Well done.
All of
Y'all
them.
did amazing.
So amazing. Honestly, it's one of my the music is one of my favorite aspects of it. I love getting to listen to the whole soundtrack from start to finish when it comes out. I have to say, actually, one of my favorite elements of this volume was, and big surprise here, it's about Winter, was the fact that they were able to make Winter this relatable, sympathetic character who also still stood by her beliefs at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that she didn't waver on that. And that I do appreciate. I might not agree with it. Like, I'm not saying she's right. I'm just saying that I get it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a well written
Mhm.
character because she's given up a lot to be in a position to have those beliefs, right?
Yeah, I'm just
Talking
saying
about
I was really disappointed that she wasn't in the last volume, and my prayers were answered, and she lived. So I'm very happy right now.
I also like talking about stuff in the writing that I thought was really good. I absolutely adored the dynamic between and Penny. I loved the dynamic between Penny and Ruby. Like there was a lot. I don't want to I know I'm talking a lot negative here, but I do not want to understate how much good writing there was in this season as well. um and there's I yeah like and I also want to state too that while we're up here talking about, oh, runtime, it would help so much if they had more runtime, blah 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 blah, I also cannot understate how incredibly complex and how many moving pieces there are in this story, and balancing all of them is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Incredibly difficult. So for how complex this story is, the runtime that they have, how many things that they need to do and get out and get established, they are doing a really, really good job. So
Man, I tear my hair out just producing, fucking one 14-minute long short that doesn't. I mean, this one's been stressful because we have an actual linear storyline for Nondescript 2 now because it's tied into Nondescript 1. But like, I can't even begin to fathom what it would be like working on such a complex storyline like the actual show.
yeah.
Being in my position but like having to make calls that affect people like budget wise too, like I no thank you. I'll stick to writing. I would not want to direct something like that. So good on them,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have the patience to do it.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult process, and hindsight is 2020, man. Like, it's really easy to look at a finished product and go, oh, that was a problem, and that was a problem, and that was a problem. Because hindsight's 2020. We've gotten messages. One of the most common messages that we get on stuff like RWBY Abridged is like, oh, you guys are so much better writers, you guys should write the actual show. No, that's not how that works. It's like I said, it's really easy to look at a finished problem and go, okay, or a finished product and go, okay, that was an issue, so let's do something about it. It's a whole nother thing to be the one writing it from scratch. So
I want to.
So also, we don't appreciate it when you put other people down to bring us up. So don't.
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
it's not a
Yeah.
compliment if you have to bring
Yeah.
someone down to put someone else up. Sunny, what are your thoughts? How did you overall like? What was one of your favorite moments of this season?
I love that we got
you
some more
screamed about
insight on Summer Rose.
Summer
go.
is Sunny is a Summer stan, in case you guys didn't
I
know.
love Summer Rose, and when we got, what was it, on episode 3 or 4, when we got that just like little tiny tidbit of Crow and Ruby talking about it, I was like, my crops are being watered. And then what we got what, just a couple episodes ago. I think I screamed. I don't remember.
I have it on my reaction, so
I probably gasped pretty loudly. I cannot wait to see what else we learn about her. I know some people think she's alive. Some people think she's dead. What happened to Summer Rose? What was that mission she went on?
I have to share the story when I shared mine and James's theory about Jin, because so when I first met Sunny, our RWBY trivia panel, we were talking outside after the panel was done, and I had been like, my theory is that that Ruby's gonna have this moment of weakness, and then she's gonna pull Jin out, and she's gonna be like, what happened? How did my mom die? And Jin's gonna say, I'm sorry, I can't answer questions about things that haven't happened yet. And Sunny literally like put her hands on her forehead, like looked around like she was questioning her life, and then stepped away and crouched down for like a good minute before she came back because she had to think about what I had said.
My mind broke right there.
And I had no idea that you cared about Summer nearly as much as I know now. So I understand now why that broke you.
I was like, and this is just my personal standpoint on it. I hope Summer is dead. I don't want her to be alive because I don't think a character needs to be alive to still be relevant to a story and to the characters they were important to.
Mhm.
But what Beau said, if that had to be the way we find out Summer is alive, if she's alive, that would be a good fucking way to do it. Just wrecked me within like half an hour of meeting me right there.
Yep. Just immediately sent her into a fucking midlife crisis.
So,
Yeah.
So in any case, I think we've been going for almost 2 hours now, so I
Yes,
think
we
that
have.
brings us pretty much to the end of the podcast and the end of the season.
Mhm.
So a couple little housekeeping things before we are completely done here. If you like this podcast and you like hearing us talk about things, we don't only talk about RWBY. We talk about RWBY when RWBY is airing, but we also have it's the same podcast, but we put a different name on it called KRWBY Talk, where we talk about various different anime, generally anime that are currently airing in whatever the current season of anime is. We'll follow that week to week and talk about that as well. So if you're anime fans like us and you want to hear us talk more about anime, you want to talk with us about anime, that kind of stuff, be sure to continue to follow us when KRWBY Talk starts up again. We're probably going to go on a little bit of a hiatus for a while before that happens, but we'll also be putting out we'll probably put out a poll or something to hear what you guys want to hear us talk about, whichever anime is airing that seems to pique your interest. But yeah, overall, thank you guys so much for what. Oh yes, Beau, do you want to talk about Perpetually Ajar?
Yeah, so first and foremost, there's a good chance, and when I say good chance, I mean probably, that this week's episode of Perpetually Jar will be delayed, probably by a few days. When we went to record the other day, I was not feeling very well, so I wanted to make sure that you guys got the best Beau that you could possibly get for the episode. So I'm really sorry. Katie and I are actually hoping to record tomorrow, for that. And I'm not going to say much about it, but I think you guys are going to be real hype about who our next guest is.
Mhm.
So that's all I'm going to say.
What?
Yup.
Extra
Yep.
special guests. What is this?
Yeah.
All guests are special.
All guests are special. I mean, can we at least say I don't want to say anything, but like we are with this new season of Perpetually Ajar, we are starting to get we've seen last time with Lauren, who are from outside KRWBY. So
yeah, so there's that whatever, take that however you will. Just prepare yourselves.
Yeah.
Assume the position.
What?
Assume your brace positions.
What?
Do you have your exit buddy?
So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
Guest.
We know you guys have been waiting patiently for Nondescript Winter Holiday 2 and RWBY Abridged Volume 2 Chapter 2. They are in post-production. Both of them are simultaneously in audio right now, which is killing me. And I literally just got a message from Faunus today asking about the possibility of putting a comic dub on my plate as well, which I'm like, I have yet to respond to, but I'm thinking the answer is going to be no.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian.
we're-
Sleep is not your thing right now.
I want
So-
you guys to know that like Brian and I had a meeting with our composer for nondescript, and
Mhm.
I was crying. Like the music
Mhm.
was so good. It makes me so emotional, and I'm so excited for you guys to see it.
Yeah.
I think it's really gonna blow your guys' minds, to be honest.
Yeah, we've been putting a lot of work into both volume 2 chapter 2 and nondescript, so those are coming soon. We have been seeing all your messages like, where's nondescript 2, where is Ruby Abridged? It's coming.
It's soon.
It's
It-
soon.
It's almost like we're a
Mhm.
volunteer organization that doesn't really
Yeah.
have much, a lot of
I
actual
don't-
money.
I don't know if or when, because I can't speak for the abridged, but as soon as I know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is a set day that nondescript will be out, guys, I promise you, I'll post it. I'll post it on our Twitter. I'll post it in the
Mhm.
server. I'll post it on the community tab. Y'all will know. As soon as we know for sure that we have a definitive date for when nondescript Winter Holiday 2 is coming out, you guys will know. I promise.
Yep, and I mean,
I want-
we
I
are.
want it to be done.
I should say it is definitively. I think we can safely say it's.
You cut out real bad.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. We can safely. I feel like we can safely say it's happening this month.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is we're in the home stretch on both of them.
Remember
So
when we wanted to be done by Christmas Eve?
yeah, I
Oh,
sure
man.
do.
What a pipe dream that turned out to be.
Nondescript Winter Holiday 2? You mean Love is in the Air 2? Because it's gonna be out by Valentine's Day.
Well, it's technically
Yeah.
still winter.
Technically
Till
still.
when?
Yeah.
At least through
Till the
a good bit of
22nd
March.
of March?
If you turn your AC down enough, it's always winter.
So,
But
anyways,
thank
yeah,
you, Sunny, for joining us.
yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Sunny. You've been a
please.
fantastic
Thank you for
guest.
having me. It's been really great.
You guys
It's
should
our
check out
pleasure,
her art.
really.
Her art is amazing. SunnyTeea. It's
Yeah,
the-
check
the
out her
name
art.
is in
If you want
featured,
to
yeah.
follow me anywhere, my brand is SunnyTeea with 2 E's. It is pretty much me on every social media platform. And if it's not, they're an imposter and you can fight them for me.
So, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been really fun talking about this season. Massive shout out and congratulations to Rooster Teeth for finishing an awesome season of RWBY. Really amazing work.
And also, I think it goes without saying, thank you, Monty.
Yes.
Thank you, Monty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Monty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and yep, thank you guys for watching. It's been fun. We will let you know when KRWBY Talk will be returning, and we will also let you know what we're thinking about watching. And if you have any suggestions about upcoming anime that you would like to hear us talk about, be sure to let us know, either here in the comments or in the suggestion box in the KRWBY server. But until then, you guys have been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you. Bye!
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, this is the awkward part where I don't end the podcast for a long time.
Bye.